Hello, and welcome to the Creative Mojo podcast. My name is Joanne, and I'm obviously the host, and I'm coming to you, as I always do, from my home in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Today is Sunday. No, I'm lying. Today is Monday, October 8th, I believe, and it's been a while since I've podcasted. This is episode number 53, and yeah, it's been about... I think it's been about 6 weeks since my last episode. Life got in the way, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. There was a bunch of things, different things happening that made it difficult for me to find time and the ability to podcast, but I'm really excited to be back here with you today. I'm in a different location than I have been the last few episodes, as you'll know, the last while, quite a while, as you'll notice. This is better lighting. I'm sitting in front of the big living room windows and getting some better lighting than I do in my dining room. But I apologize for the glare on my glasses. There's nothing really I can do about that. It was a choice of the better lighting and a little bit of glare, or the not so good lighting in the dining room. And part of the reason for that is I feel like I talk about lighting all the time on my podcast. I really need to invest in some studio lights that will make this not an issue anymore. But in the meantime, it's a kind of a gray day out today. It's snowing a little bit on and off, which is ridiculously early for October. We seem to have bypassed fall. We kind of went straight from late summer into beginning of winter, which was a real drag. You may, if you follow me on Instagram or other Calgary knitters or podcasters, you may have seen that we got a terrific snow dump about a week ago. We got record-breaking snow, 1st of October, and we had, it was like 40 centimeters or something, which is, what is 40 centimeters? It's like about 1.5 feet, just over 1.5 feet probably, of snow. It was ridiculous. It all came down in about a 24-hour period, and it was, you know, like that much everywhere on everything, and it sort of ground the city to a halt for a day. There were all kinds of accidents. People had trouble getting to work because there were buses slid sideways on a lot of the major roads, certainly any roads with hills, and the highway was closed coming from the mountains. There were people apparently trapped in their cars on the highway for like 12 hours. It was ridiculous. And so yeah, that was the beginning of October. That was super not exciting. So the other reasons why I haven't podcasted in a while, the first one was, as I think I mentioned, if you saw the post I put up in our Ravelry group, the Creative Mojo Ravelry group, that my husband and I both came down with a flu bug, which was a terrible chest cold bug that he got, and then I got from him. I still have the tiniest last bit of it. It was it lasted for about a month. Both of us were barking like seals for weeks and weeks, and we were only really sick, like, you know, stay home sick. I stayed home from work one day, I think, maybe 2 days, and yeah, it was 2 days because I got out on the weekend, and then I stayed home the Monday after that. So a couple of days that I was sick and a couple of days that he was sick, where it was like stay home in bed. But then it was weeks and weeks of having this horrible nagging chest cough that made you sound terrible, and I kept losing my voice, and when I wasn't losing my voice, I was still coughing all the time, and I thought that was not great for podcasting. So I ended up having to skip a little bit of time there. And then I was going to podcast about 2 weekends ago, and had some family things come up. I've talked before on the podcast about how my father has dementia, and he's still living at home with my stepmother, and she's looking after him. But we've been starting to make the move towards looking to get him into a home at some point, unfortunately. But he's still okay to be at home, but he can't really be left on his own anymore, and he can't really do much by himself. the weekend before this one, my stepmother, no, 2 weekends ago, I guess, my stepmother fell and broke her arm. And so my sister and I spent a day up at the hospital with them while she was getting her arm looked at and treated. And she's back home, but she's not able to drive the car now for a little while. And he, of course, can't drive anymore, much to his never-ending displeasure. And yeah, so my sister and I had to spend the day up at the hospital with them, helping her get all sorted out and looking after them, and then taking them home and getting them set up there. And I went and did some grocery shopping for them, and things like, we helped them get some things arranged so that they would be okay at home. And then I was going up there quite a bit every day or two for a little bit to check in on them and make sure they were okay, and then see if they needed anything. And the following not this weekend that's just passed, but the weekend before, I went up again and did another grocery shop for them and stuff like that. So that ate up a lot of my time on the weekends, which is normally when I can podcast as well. So long story short, those are all the reasons why I was missing in action for so much time. And I'm sorry about that, because I really miss doing this. I miss having the opportunity to connect with people and to talk about what I'm working on. And I missed the end of September draw for our year-long knit-along that we have going on, which is the Pattern Socks Cal. I did post the winner in the Ravelry group, and I got in touch with her. It was, let me just check my notes here. It was post number 99, who was Sandy, try that again, Sandy, Mystery Sewer. And I did get her prize out to her, so I hope, Sandy, that you've received it by now. And that was it was a skein of yarn from Ginger Snap, my friend Kim here in Calgary, who's a lovely yarn dyer and bag maker. And soon enough, the end of October, end of October? Yes, end of August, end of October, we'll have another draw, and I haven't quite decided what the prize for that is going to be yet. I may do another pattern, maybe a sock pattern of your choice, something like that. So if you are knitting any pattern socks, and those are socks that would have lace or cables or texture or that kind of thing, not self-striping yarn and not vanilla socks. You can use self-striping if you do it with a pattern, but it's a year-long cal. You can enter as many times as you want. I do a prize drawing from the same finished object thread every 2 months, so there's just one finished object thread for the year. I may do a grand prize for the final draw at the end of December. I'll see how that goes. But there's been lots and lots of beautiful sock entries in there, and so I hope that if you haven't participated yet, you'll consider participating and joining in on that. As I said, the posts and all the information are in the Ravelry group, and I will put a link to our Ravelry group in the down bar below here on YouTube. And that's where in the Ravelry group is where I put my show notes as well. Anyway, let's get on with what I've been working on since I talked to you last. I have a number of finished objects, which I'm excited about. The first one, speaking of pattern socks, is I finally finished my Fairy Light socks by Helen Stewart, who's the Curious Handmaid. I can't even remember how long ago I started these, but it was months and months and months ago. Sometime in the spring, actually, might even have been just after Christmas. These have been on the needles a long time. I have just not had a lot of sock knitting mojo this year, really. I've only done a couple of pairs of socks, and that might be partly because I have a tremendous amount of hand knit socks, and so does everyone else in my family. I have years where I knit 20, 25 pairs of hand knit socks in a year. And so this year I've been all about the sweaters, and I was looking yesterday actually at my Ravelry, some of my tabs for my finished project, and realized that I've now knit 8 garments this year. I've just finished the 4th sweater for myself. I knit a sweater for my friend Denise. I knit a baby sweater. That's only 6. I can't remember what the other 2 are, but I do have 8 things in that maybe I did 5 knit sweaters for myself. Anyway, so that's kind, and I have several others on the go right now, and I have another one I'm going to cast on fairly soon, and that's just what I've been wanting to knit on this year is sweaters. I'm wearing, speaking of sweaters, I'm wearing, I'll come back to my finished objects in a minute. I'm very scattered. It's been a while since I've done this, like I said. I'm wearing my Erie sweater, which is a pattern by Isabel Kramer that I knit earlier this year out of Len magazine. I love this sweater, and I have been wearing it lots since the weather turned yucky. It's doing a little funny fold here at the arms, at this arm anyway. That's where my t-shirt stops underneath, and I think that's what's causing that. But this was knit from Abundant Earth Fibers, the Joseph and Annie yarn, which is a 80% or I can't remember if it's 80 or 90% merino and a 10% American Targhee or 20% American Targhee, I can't remember which. I love this sweater so much. I've been wearing it quite a bit since the weather turned from, as I said, from summer to winter like that here. It's so cozy and comfy, and it's a sport weight yarn. It's exactly the right kind of weight. It feels warm and cozy, but it's not super hot. Like I can wear it on a colder day. I can wear it to work and be comfortable in it in the office and not be, you know, overly warm in it. But layered under a winter jacket, it keeps me really, really warm outside. When I went to work last week in the crazy snowpocalypse weather that we were having, I wore a lightweight down jacket over this, and it was perfect, toasty warm. So yeah, I just love this so much, and it feels so nice. It's a non-superwash yarn. I've kind of come to think that I want to knit all my sweaters out of non-superwash yarn now, which is too bad because I have quite a bit of fingering weight superwash in sweater quantities, which I will use to knit sweaters. But I do find that superwash yarn stretches out. Like when you block it, it grows and it stretches, and it doesn't keep its shape in the same way. When I blocked this, it just kept its shape beautifully. It softened a little bit and it relaxed, but it's such a bouncy yarn. Yeah, so anyway, this is, as I said, my Erie sweater by Isabel Kramer, and probably my favorite sweater that I've knit for myself to date. Love it, love it. And I can't recommend this yarn enough. I really want to buy more Abundant Earth Fiber yarn. I was on their website looking at a DK weight that they have, and had to stop myself going, you got to knit a bit more of the sweater quantities in your stash first. Don't buy more yarn. Anyway, let's get back to finished objects. So as I said, these were the vintage Fairy Lights socks. I knit these out of some Woolen Boon, her sock yarn. It's just a merino nylon in the Robin Sparkles colorway. I love this. You can see the pretty design up there on the top of the little fairy lights, and then it goes into a 3x1, I think it's a 3x1 rib for the rest of the sock, except for the foot of the bottom, just stockinette, of course. It's a cuff down, heel flap and gusset, regular wedge toe. It's all the kind of things I like in a sock, but I really, really like these. And they took me way too long to finish, and that's because I just kept neglecting them. But I'm really happy to have them finished now. And I may they're ever so slightly too short in the foot, like by that much. So the heel doesn't quite fit as nicely as they should. I should have done another couple of rows before going into the toe. So I may gift these to my sister for Christmas, I think. I haven't really totally decided yet. So that's finished object number 1. Finished object number 2, which I showed the last time I was knitting on this. This is a gift for my husband. It's a belated birthday gift. I started it on his birthday, which was in August. And it is the Groovy shawl. He requested a bandana style scarf to wear with some of his leather coats and things, and that's a pretty good representation of the colorway there. I love this. It's Madeline Tosh. It's Tosh Merino Light, which is a single ply in the Whiskey Barrel colorway. I used 2 skeins. It's the Groovy Shawl fingering weight. There's a fingering weight and I believe a DK weight, I think, for this pattern. DK and worsted maybe weight for this pattern as well. It's really fun to knit. It's knit from one end up, and it's all just sections of where it's the stockinette, and then it's the reverse stockinette and stockinette. It's very simple to knit. You tie it in these little knots on the end, which just weights the corners nicely, and then he will wear it like that, like a scarf. And he's been away for 2 weeks in British Columbia gigging on tour, and he's going to be back home sometime this evening for the lovely snowy weather. So this is sort of perfect timing that it's finished and blocked and ends woven in and everything ready to go. So yeah, this was a very pleasant knit. I think I knit this in about, it took me about 3 weeks all told. I'm not having as much knitting time these days. So that is my second finished object, and my third finished object just came off the needles yesterday, and I have actually sewn in the ends and blocked it. It is slightly damp. I just took it off the blocking mats and realized it's just slightly damp under the armpits, I think. Yeah, just ever so slightly, but very pleased with this. This is The Breathing Space by Vera Valimaki. You've probably seen this. Lots of people knit this a year or 2 ago. I think this pattern is about 2 years old. 2, maybe even 3 now. Oh, it smells so good from the yarn wash that I used, which I can't remember the name of. It's the yarn wash that was gifted to me by my friend Pat. It's not a soak or an Ecolan, it's something else, and it smells really, really good. Sort of fresh sheets type of smell. Anyway, yeah, and it is a little damp in the sleeves. But anyway, this, I knit this out of, it's a fingering weight sweater, and it's knit with Malabrigo sock yarn, 2 colors, obviously. Oh, and I'm not going to be able to remember this name because it's in Spanish. It's the Spanish word for eggplant is what, no, artichoke. Spanish word for artichoke is what this color is, which, if you can see, it's a black, but it's got a green hint to it. So it goes really nicely then with this color here is called, the stripe is Turner, and it's this sort of green, mossy green, brown color. And I thought those 2 colors played beautifully together. Yeah, I'm very, very happy with this. I think I'm going to wear it to work tomorrow. I pretty much knitted exactly as written, the only thing I'm not crazy about with it, other than when I washed it, I was like, oh, this is the thing I don't like so much about superwash, is the stretch factor. It grew. I had to put it in the dryer for a couple of minutes just to sort of shrink it back up a tiny bit to shape. But my only kind of complaint about it really is that the sleeves, I wish I had gone down a size in the sleeves and made them a little more form-fitting. The sleeves are a little loose. You can see that cuff there is a bit wide. But that's all right. I've tried it on. It looks great. The top, the raglan in the top here fits actually really nicely. I find that with a lot of Vera's patterns. I really enjoyed knitting it, even with all those stripes. It's if you haven't seen this pattern before, it's an asymmetrical hem, so it's longer to one side than it is to the other. So the short side hits me just kind of at the low hip, like if you were, sorry about that, if you were wearing a belt, it would just hit below the belt line of your pants. And then the long side comes down to low hip, top of my leg, basically. Yeah, so this turned out really nicely. This is, as I said, this is my, I think it's my 4th sweater I've finished for myself this year. And that's finished object number 3. and I only have 2 works in progress, partly because I was really concentrating on this the last week or so. I was just entirely knitting on the sleeves on this to get this finished. And I'm still on Sleeve Island, but yeah, with another project. Having finished that yesterday, I then picked up my Birkin sweater by Caitlin Hunter. I've shown this many times before. Gosh, that color work actually looks pretty good in this light. I finished 1 sleeve on it. I am on, I started on the 2nd sleeve. And I still have some of the body to go. And I wasn't sure about how much yarn I had and how long. So I decided to knit the sleeves and then use the rest of the yarn on the body and sort of make the body to not have to worry so much. I mean, I'll make the body as long as I have yarn for, or as long as as long as the yarn is lasting, I'll make it for what feels like the right length. This is knit out of Brooklyn Tweed Loft, which is the fingering weight. And yeah, I have most of this ball. This is 90%, I think, still of this ball. This color is Sweatshirt, I believe. I don't remember all the colorway names in here off the top of my head, but it is on my project page on Ravelry. But this, I think, will get me through the sleeve, and then I will have 2 50-gram skeins of yarn to get through the rest of the body, which should be plenty. So I think probably about 4 inches more of the body, and then some ribbing is probably about what it needs. So this should finish up pretty fast now that it's just stockinette in the round. Just got to bang out that other sleeve, and then the body, the rest of the body of the sweater will go quickly. So I anticipate having this done in the next 2 weeks, which will make me really happy. And then I still have my weekender sweater on the needles. I haven't worked on that at all in a bit, but I will get to that next. And I will also probably cast on a new sweater. What I want to cast on next is, oh, actually, I have one other work in progress that I should show you. I have lots of other work in progress, lots and lots of other works in progress, but only one other one that I'm actually kind of working on. And that's a gift for a friend of mine, an office mate, fellow I work with, and his sister just had a baby. It's their family's very first grandchild. It's his first niece, and he was super excited. He was at the hospital when she was born, and he's so excited to be an uncle. And so I offered to make a little gift for him to give to his sister and the new baby, and to knit him something. And I was going to knit a sweater, and then he came back with a request, and he said, "Babe, leg warmers is what his sister was talking about, thinking was really cute on babies, and that's what he wanted me to make for her." So this is the first one, is completed. It's out of Olan yarn in this in a tweed base. I don't remember the colorway. Let's see if I have the tag in here or not. Oh, I do have the tag. Ah. Although whether I can read the name, because their Olan yarns always have sort of Gaelic names. It says Mac Cumhale, I think. Mac Cumhale seems to be the name of that colorway. Let's see if you can see that on there. I love this yarn. I love the color of it. Sort of pinky, orangey tweed, the little nubs. I thought these were super cute for baby leg warmers. So I've got one finished. This has just been my sort of on the bus and travel knitting, you know, to and from work and stuff like that. And I have just actually the cast on of the second one. So should get onto those and get those finished, get that second one finished up. That won't take me very long. Those are living in this beautiful Suburban Stitcher bag that I got a couple years ago. I really like this bag. Louisiana Foods. Anyway, so those are my works in progress, that what I've been actively knitting on the last little while. And the sweater I'm going to cast on next is this one, which I've had on my list for a while. This is the Kaylee that's pronounced Kaylee, by Julia Farewell Clay. It's a worsted weight sweater that in the pattern there it's knit in Brooklyn Tweed Shelter. I'm not going to do it in Brooklyn Tweed Shelter, which was a lot more expensive. Instead, I'm doing it in Cascade. So this Cascade 220. Yeah, Cascade 220 Heather. This beautiful. That's it right there. That's the color. It's this lovely dark green with little. It's heathered with little hints of black in it. It's really beautiful, rich dark green. And Cascade is. It's not a wool. It's not a woolen spun. It's a worsted spun. Brooklyn Tweed is actually a woolen spun, but it is a non-superwash yarn. So I think this will work nicely. And I really like that sweater. I've looked at it a lot and definitely think that's the next one. I'm also, I'm trying to find a pattern that I like for a cardigan. I tend to always end up knitting pullovers. The patterns I like and the things I see, that's what I end up, and I wear them quite a bit. I wear most of the sweaters that I've made over the last few years. But I do want to knit myself a cardigan or two, and I just have to find the right kind of pattern. There's certain, I realized that a lot of the sort of raglan construction, open-fronted, lightweight cardigans, style-wise and shape-wise are not the best for my body. And so I'm looking at things with a set-in sleeve. There is one here that I'm considering. That it's the cover of This Lane magazine, which is the same one that has my Birkin in it, actually. It's this lovely sweater, which is called the Utu. And it is also a fingering weight. The in the pattern, it's knit with a gradient set. I would just, I think, do it in a solid. And it's got, you probably can't see in this picture, but it's got some lovely little kind of twisted stitch leaf cable design along the yoke there, and some on the sleeve here as well. So I'm thinking about that also as another soon to be cast on as a cardigan that I would probably do out of, I've got that Woolen Boon light colored yarn, the Buffy that I showed a few episodes back. And I'm thinking that that might be nice for this. So those are going to be two new cast on sometime soon. And you know what? It's only 30 minutes into this episode, and that's kind of all the content I feel like I have today. I don't know what's going on with that. I didn't really plan any kind of extra topics to talk about today. I did do a little bit of sewing in August since I talked to you last. I didn't think to bring that over with me because I have it all put away because it was sort of summer dresses, and it is no longer, definitely no longer summer dress weather here. I will show you, I finished another Hinterland dress, and that turned out quite well, and I will show you that at some point on an episode. And I don't think I have any acquisition. Oh, I do. I did get I did order 2 skeins of Sweet Sparrow yarns, fingering weight yarns. I've looked at her stuff for a long time. If you don't know, she's a dyer and podcaster, I think from New Jersey. And I really like her yarns. I've looked at them lots, and I just happened to catch an update. And although I've been pretty good about not buying yarn, I did pull the trigger and buy 2 skeins of that. And again, I'll show you that sometime soon. But I didn't bring them over here with me, so I don't have them to show you today. And on that note, I guess I'm going to just call this a short episode. I hope you're all doing really well. I hope your last 6 weeks has been a little less eventful than mine has been. I know, it's so funny, I've been catching up on some podcasts this weekend. It is Canadian Thanksgiving this weekend. My family were not doing Thanksgiving because my stepmom's broken arm, my husband is out of town, my sister and her husband went out of town for the weekend, and I was actually supposed to have my nephew here with me the last 2 days because they all went out of town, took my younger nephew, but my older nephew, who's just about to turn 15, didn't want to go, and he was going to do a couple of days at my mother's house and a couple of days here with me. And then he called me yesterday and said that he had decided to stay at my mom's house, his grandmother's house, for the full weekend. My mom said, it was funny, she said he just didn't want to clean up the mess he'd made in the spare room and pack everything up and bring it over here and make a mess and then have to clean it up again. It's that 15-year-old laziness. He just wanted to have to clean up his mess once. So he decided to stay there for the rest of the weekend. So I mostly just had a very quiet weekend, watching some TV, doing some house cleaning, a little bit of cooking, lots of knitting. That's how I got to finish that sweater. I washed some hand knits yesterday. In addition to that sweater, I washed a couple of other sweaters, and I had set up this spare bed thinking that my nephew was coming. So I thought, well, it's a futon that doubles as a couch in our basement. So I had unfolded it into a bed. I thought, well, this is a good excuse to wash some hand knits and lay them out there to dry. And washed a bunch of socks, and I've been doing all kinds of little things like that and having a mostly very, very quiet, peaceful weekend. And so, yeah, I was catching up on some podcasts. And it's so funny watching people who are living in places in the States where, I mean, I expect it when people live in the southern states where the temperatures are much, much nicer all year long, including in the winter. But people that live in the sort of northern states, I think I was watching Woolen Vine podcast, and she was still out in shorts and a tank top. And I thought, and it was the beginning of October, and I thought, gosh, that's a dramatic difference from the weather here. So we are forecasted to get some more snow again. Said we're having little light flurries today, but nothing serious. But apparently there's going to be another several inches tomorrow. Lucky us. Lucky us. Anyway, it's been lovely to talk to you all. And as I said, I hope that you're all doing really well and enjoying your knitting and taking it easy. And if you're Canadian, happy Thanksgiving and happy knitting until I talk to you next time.